We had a technical difficulty in the previous meeting, so that's why you were seeing a sample page rather than the actual thing. So here I just want to make sure that we can. This is not going to be a live meeting. I mean, if you have logged in, you would see my screen, but this is going to be recorded, and then I can definitely send this to everyone to view it. So bit of a learning exercise, but in any event, I just wanted to basically send this out after the meeting, so you could basically have a sense of how these meetings would look like. So basically to kind of go through the the overall logistics of things. You in the original meeting notice, you got a link to a site called bigdatalib.github, and that is effectively it's going to be the source of all the information that we're going to have for these meetings. So this is obviously a trial run of the meetings that we're going to have. We haven't really decided whether it's going to be completely live or virtual media or recorded meetings. However, it will be it would be something that we can decide later on based off of feedback. So effectively, I mean, to kind of recap what we are planning to do is to have a series of hands-on sessions using various tools for risk managers and trading professionals to kind of get them up to speed with big data and data science. We have chosen R, which I'm going to explain why in a second. However, we're going to look at other tools as well that are used or that could be used in your analytics sort of projects. So this is obviously, as I mentioned, this is a trial run. So any feedback would be highly appreciated, and that's really it. And kind of recap what I mentioned before in the actual live session, which some of you could not view because of technical difficulties. We are going to have 6 sessions, and this is a pilot that we're running, and it's going to be effectively like we're going to start with introducing the tool, get into some of the details around how to launch these tools on the web. We're going to look at statistical learning and inference with an example, and then we're going to scale up into the cloud and using Spark Hadoop. And then finally, we're going to finish the whole thing using some of the more sophisticated visualization tools such as D3. For each training or each meeting, there's going to be a page like this. It's a blog page with details. This is sort of the basic setup. I mean, there's going to be more details around the time of the meeting, location, and so on. There's some information about me, and the meeting logistics. So this is effectively a live page. You can log in and get all the information about the meeting. And then as part of this, I've basically put some of the background information about what we're discussing, and also the objectives that we're trying to achieve in each meeting. There's going to be obviously the live meeting feed here for those of you who cannot access using the Google Plus and Google Hangout. This is going to be the page that's going to stream all the data, stream effectively my screen to you and the voice data. we actually want one of the objectives of these meetings is to actually how to record these meetings, have them recorded, and get the discussion going even after the meeting is over. So there's a discussion board that you can utilize to post questions and discuss the concepts, and that would be highly appreciated if you actually do that for this meeting, so I can kind of get a sense of where we stand with this project and what to do next in many ways. Like, we're sort of looking at this as a pilot, and your feedback is definitely going to change the direction of our approach to something that's actually more usable for everyone. And so, having said that, I'm going to just basically dive into the actual meeting, or the meeting content. What you realize in the main blog page, you basically have links to a whole bunch of locations. One of them is a GitHub location for this meeting called GARP YYC. It's under Big Data Lib handle of GitHub. So you can find me and you can get connected to me there. Here, I basically put all the material related to this meeting, so you can basically look at it beforehand and play around with things, and and give me feedback in the meantime. If that would be appreciated. But this is effectively the material I'm going to cover in this meeting. So now, kind of getting back into introduction to R for risk managers and training professionals. We kind of, data science is everywhere. It's big, and it has very compelling applications in trading and risk management. Trading risk management, I believe, is part of a broader decision science sort of area and skill set. And as a risk manager or as a trading professional, you effectively are influencing decision makers, or you're a decision maker that uses data to basically basically initiate decisions and basically get results as those decisions are turn into actions in a trading world, in terms of trading positions, or in the case of risk management, in terms of influencing the actual decision makers to make the right decisions in terms of risk reward. So learning objectives of this meeting is effectively basics of R, reading and writing data in R, cleaning data, and plotting. And that's usually the starting point of using any sort of tool. And kind of the next slide, I effectively cover the reason why R is useful. Most importantly, it's an open source tool. And what it means is it has a huge user community. There are over 6,000 packages, and really at the end of the day, the power of R is through the use of these packages. It is a best tool for exploratory data analysis. And what I mean by that is, the functionality within R allows you to run code line by line and experiment with things, as well as, try to run it as a batch and like any other program. So you don't necessarily need to compile the code, and that basically makes the whole process much smoother and easier, and it allows you to do a whole bunch of exploration around what it is that you want to do. It's one of the best tools for statistical learning, and that was always the power of R, because it was effectively a statistical package, but it has grown since then, so you can expand R into whole and connect with other tools, for example, with C++ code using RCPP package, as well as through the web using all sorts of JavaScript packages. So in many ways now, R is quite, it could be a front end, but it allows you to run a whole bunch of other applications in the background. And more important, and most importantly, at the end of the day, it's free. So in many ways, you could effectively download this and get started with it. You don't have to bunch of approval to basically purchase package. So As I have described in the actual blog post, you can download the development environment called RStudio. Quite useful. It has a very good interface. What you see here is RStudio on the cloud. It's a server version of this. You can download it on the cloud if you own it, either on Amazon or DigitalOcean. So you could effectively utilize that. And, they're very much the same. So you're to manage, and you can access from effectively in the world and access your own environment. So as I mentioned before, usually you start with a with the very basics, which is the hello world sort of commands. In R, I would say the first command that you need to know is how to install packages. So I've highlighted this on my screen, and as you see, it says install packages, install package XDS. I'm not going to show you that I'm not going to run that. However, you could you could try it on your RStudio or any sort of R interface you're using. You can try that and see how it works. There's some difficulties sometimes with packages across the proxy if you're doing it within your company server. But there are a whole bunch of resources you can use online to kind of set up for that. And then the next item is how to assign values. So it's very easy to run any line in R. Just use Control and Enter. And if you run this next line, you would see that that number that you assigned to X is showing up on your screen in the bottom here. You can assign a vector using a similar method, and use str commands to get a numeric to basically reflect back on that number. So here it gives you more summary of that variable you assign, plus a little bit more information about what data type it is. Next step usually in the whole process is reading and writing. So here I'm reading a CSV file from a location on S3 Amazon, but it could be your local drive. So it's very easy. You can read it, and then you will see see the header, see the data structure using the head command at the end of that read CSV command that you saw. You can get a sense of what the data structure looks like. It's basically it's a data frame. I can discuss that a little bit later on what that is. And then if you use names command, you can effectively see the header names. I mean, as you see here, because of the empty spaces in the original data, you have all of these dot locations. There are ways to clean that up, and one way to clean that up is effectively using a command called gsub. So you can basically take the header files, using gsub to remove the trailing dots, and then assign it back to the header of that data frame. So now if you look at use head command, you see that the data is cleaned up. So it kind of using str, you would see the data format that you have. It's a data frame. It's effectively data structure, and it has a month as a column, and then it has a whole bunch of numbers. In this case, this is a data for power generation based using for different categorized by different fuels from EIA website. So in this case, the month is actually formatted as factor. And that's not very useful if you want to do any sort of time series analysis. So you could transform these data quite easily. So in this case, this is an example of transforming your month data into a date format. So in order to do that, I'm basically appending a 1, which basically reflects the first of the month. So that's a date. And then using it as date command, using a format that is consistent with my the format in the string character for that column, I can basically run it and assign it back to the variable. So in order to kind of see or identify a column within a data frame, you can use either temp $month, or you can basically do temp array and put month in quotation. So that would basically give you the same number. So now if I go back and do a str, you would see that the format of my month has changed into a date format. Data types, as I mentioned before, data types are quite important in R. If there's one thing that you need to focus on at early stages of learning R is using data types. So there are a number of data types, numeric and character I showed earlier. But you can also have your data as vector and data frame. Data frame tends to be the most widely used data type because of the fast access, and it makes the data look very organized. And a lot of packages actually require a data frame as a data type to be used. So in this case, what I'm doing is I'm effectively assigning values into different types of values into variables, and I basically, if I run them one by one, and then look at them, you would see like how they show up. In the case of data frame, I mean, it's a little bit more complicated. You need to define data frame using different columns and headers, and then the values here. And after that, what you could do is, like, if you have a different diverse sort of data types, what you could do is you can use and store them as a list. There are some practical applications around lists which makes it quite useful in terms of passing data, for example, out of a function into your environment. And the main feature of list is you can have a data structure of different data types. So for example, here I ran all of these lines, and I have different types of data, and I can put them as a list. And if you look at that, you would see effectively all my data is showing up as different in a data structure, and I can basically call them if I want to extract the same value. So I could basically say x.l and number 3. That would basically return the data frame back to me. So after that, one of the things that you need to look at are effectively your control, your if-else statements, for loops, to basically run loops through your data sets. I'm not going to go through them, but you can play around with that. It should work. I've run it before. It should work, and you can kind of gives you a sense of how things are organized. One of the really nice things with R is connectivity to a whole bunch of other packages. And one of the common things that risk managers and trading professionals do is to link to data feeds. There are different packages for all sorts of commercial data providers, such as Bloomberg and LIM, Morningstar. But in this case, I want to just give you an example of how it would look like in a free version of Quandl, which effectively, like, what you could do is you can load a package Quandl and pull any data series that they have freely available. There's a syntax associated with that. You can look at the documentation. And also, if you want to look at a specific example, I have a blog post that is recorded in this slide deck, which kind of covers this concept in more detail. So if I run this and show you how it looks like, I effectively have, from Quandl, I have pulled a price series for front NG contract, natural gas contract, from 1983 to 2015 this year, and you know, it basically has a lot of the price information, volume data, and open interest, and that shows up as a data frame, and you can basically play around and change the data as you wish. The other feature that's quite useful in R is connectivity to databases. So this is kind of like being able to read from a database, a local database, and then push data into a database. In this case, I'm using MongoDB. It's a no SQL database, but you could very easily use any other tool, such as MySQL or Oracle, even Oracle databases. So here, what I've done is I basically load a Mongo package within R, and I effectively open an environment in a local server which connects to a database called tests, and with a collection or table called collection test. The syntax for Mongo is slightly different from what you're used to with SQL databases, but you know, when you get a hang of it, it's actually quite easy. So the data that we pulled earlier, what I can do is I can basically insert that into a database, and basically 6,000 rows inserted, and that's fairly quick. Then what I can do is I can effectively, using the same session, I can come and take that one of the dates from that time series and pull it out. And what you would see is, I mean, obviously this is not a SQL type query, but in many ways I find it much easier and more straightforward. And it effectively pulls the data in a JSON format, and basically you can. What happens behind the scene is that JSON gets converted as part of the Mongo Lite package into a data frame. So that's quite useful in terms of accessing your company data, your position data, and price data. Another really useful package within R is a package called dplyr. It takes a lot of effort out of manipulating and cleaning up data. So I basically have included a link to a description and examples of dplyr. You can take a look at them, and effectively this is quite simple. And you know, in many ways, the way that they have chained the commands within dplyr makes it much more compact and easy to use. So what I can do is I can then take that my data data series, which is the gas price data, clean it up, change the format change the date format, and arrange it using ascending for the date, and basically make a conversion on the date, turn it into a year, and then select certain columns from it and filter a time period within that data. And this is really, in many ways, when you're doing data series analysis, this is a type of cleanup that you require before doing any sort of analysis or plotting of that data. So if you kind of go through that example, I'll show you exactly how that would look like. It's quite fast and easy. So what I can do then, I can basically do head my variable, and what you would see is effectively few lines of that data that we cleaned up. So, and then if we do a str on this, you see the structure right there. So things are clean in the right format, arranged correctly, and shown as we wanted them to basically appear. And then usually as part of that exploratory analysis, the first thing you would do is really you want to get a handle of the how the data looks like. So there's a really good package called ggplot. It gives you amazingly nice visuals, but also you can build on top of those plots by doing a line-by-line addition to them. So you could basically have a basic plot, add different features to them. In many ways, it might take a few trials to kind of get a hang of how ggplot is set up and organized. But when you get a hang of it, it's really like repeat of the similar sort of commands that give you what you need. So here, what I want to do is I want to basically show the data that I have, which is the gas price data by settle prices versus volume, and then I want to basically divide that data by year, so to kind of get a better sense of how the trends look like year on year. As volume goes up, what happens to the price, settle prices, or vice versa. I mean, you could run regressions this way and do a best fit line. In this case, I basically run a best fit line through my data, and it's not a linear regression, but it's kind of you could basically run anything you want. So to kind of give you a sense, if you run this, what you're going to get is effectively this plot. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so you can take a look. Yeah. So now here you have your data organized by volume, by settle price, and then you run a best fit line through them. And then colors basically determine different years. So in many ways, you can almost cluster your data visually and get a better sense of what you're looking at. So in many ways, this ends the first intro session of R4 risk management and trading. I appreciate your feedback. This is effectively a trial run of what we're planning to roll out. So any feedback would be highly appreciated.